Good morning. My name is Judge Peter Garcia. I'm here to talk to you about mental health and a problem-solving court that we have started in the 22nd Judicial District Court to deal with some of the issues of mental health and particularly how they relate to the criminal justice system. Although I've been a judge for almost 19 years, I am only recently becoming professionally and personally acquainted with some of the issues relating to mental illness and the problems that people with mental illness face and their families in particular. These problems are exacerbated by the fact that the mentally ill are overrepresented in the criminal justice system. For some reason that we have not completely addressed, the people with mental health issues have ended up in the court system in greater numbers and greater percentages than the general population. A number of these issues relate to the fact that a large percentage of people with mental illness also have a co-occurring addiction. And the courts need to recognize these problems, and the court attempts to move these people out of the criminal justice system and into treatment where they are more appropriately dealt with. And that is both from a humanitarian and a fiscal standpoint. It doesn't make sense for us to incarcerate these people. Mental illness is not a crime, and we should not criminalize it as a status. Louisiana has the highest per capita incarceration in the United States. The United States has the highest per capita incarceration in the world. St. Tammany Parish has the highest per capita incarceration in the state of Louisiana. So we are at the top of the pyramid. It's ridiculous for us not to address this issue. At the same time, we're caught in a situation where we have the lowest per capita funding to treat the mentally ill. We are under the Florida Parishes Human Services Authority. The state is broken down into different mental health districts. If you look at the per capita funding for mental health, we are among the lowest in the state for per capita funding. We need to address that both legislatively and in our own communities. When you combine that low funding for mental health with the high incarceration rate, you begin to wonder whether there's a relationship between the lack of funding for mental health and the high incarceration rate. The courts were established as part of a solution to address anywhere along the continuum of the criminal justice system these people's entry into the system. What I mean by that is, obviously people first come into contact with the criminal justice system through arrest. As they are arrested, they're placed in jail. Then they are usually allowed to bond out. After they bond out, they're given an arraignment date, and they are then given a pretrial and a trial date if it's a felony, or just a trial date if it's a misdemeanor. With the behavioral health court, by referrals by the law enforcement community, by the district attorney's office, by the public defender's office, by probation and parole, we are able to address these people at any stage along that line so that we can take them out as they come to court when they're appearing for a bond hearing, or if they're appearing at arraignment or pretrial. We're able to make that contact with them at that point. We can do assessments to determine if they have a serious mental illness, if the crime that they're charged with is related to that serious mental illness, and try to approach it from a treatment standpoint rather than a punishment standpoint. The courts have been very successful in other parts of the country. There are only a few currently in operation in the state of Louisiana, but it makes abundant sense for us to spend fewer dollars on treatment than the large amount of dollars that are necessary for incarceration. The courts of this judicial district have tried to address this high incarceration rate in a number of ways. We have been looking and addressing these issues with alternative sentencing programs. Basically, this is a specialty court or a problem-solving court in order to place people in other forms of treatment rather than jail. This is accomplished by the development of drug courts. We have 3 adult drug courts in 2 parishes of our judicial district, and are about to start up a juvenile drug court. We have a family reunification court, which is in the nature of a drug court in a case where a child has been taken from a family in a child in need of care case, the court oversees the reunification of the child with the parents by looking at their drug issues and other issues that they need to comply with in order to be reunified with their children. We also have a sobriety court, which deals with mostly alcohol-related traffic offenses and not drug-related. Those are referred to the drug court program. And we have a reentry court that deals with people with higher prison sentences, and they are sent to Angola for training for a certain period of time and return to the community with job training. And again, they're overseen by the court to reintegrate them back into the community. And along with that, we have the behavioral health court. So we have been using all of these different courts in order to address this over-incarceration issues by looking for alternatives to sentencing. The behavioral health court grew out of a need to address these issues, and it was brought together by a number of different stakeholders in the system. It involved the district attorney's office, the public defender's office, the treatment community, the sheriff's office. All of these people recognized the need to establish this court. We began planning in 2010 and worked for different federal grants in order to accomplish this. We began with funding through the parish, who has been very supportive of this program, and they funded us initially. We eventually got a grant through SAMHSA, which is an arm of the Federal Department of Health and Hospitals. With this grant, we're able to study the effectiveness of assertive community treatment teams in which a doctor, a psychiatrist, a social worker, and a nurse go in and treat these individuals in their homes because of the lack of services in the community and our lack of transportation resources. So we're studying the outcome of these ACT teams with this grant that we have been granted by SAMHSA. The mental health court tries to address the co-occurring disorder that I spoke of recently. And that is because of the high percentage of people with mental illness that also have a co-occurring addiction, we need to integrate this treatment for these people. Traditionally, treatment has always been divided for addiction or for a mental health issue, and those types of treatment have not been integrated. The treatment community would treat either one or the other. In the mental health court, we recognize that this form of treatment has to be integrated, so we address both the addiction and the mental health issue. And the purpose is to keep these people out of jail, keep them from recidivating so that they don't continue to commit offenses over and over again. The families do not have to turn to the coroner for emergency certificates or to their physicians for physician's emergency certificates. We address the issue in court, and once they are in treatment, we monitor their medication, we make sure that they make all their appointments, then all of the other incidents of arrest and certificates and commitment through these processes with the coroner decrease significantly. Our primary purpose is to help those individuals and their families whose life is complicated by their involvement in the criminal justice system, whose mental illness affects their daily quality of life. And we find that by integrating this team of court specialists and treatment that we have accomplished this purpose. Behavioral health court is held every Wednesday at 1 o'clock on the second floor of the St. Tammany Parish Courthouse. We have staffing at 12 o'clock, and it's a closed program because we have to respect the medical rights of the individuals involved, but with permission, anyone can attend. We thank you for the support of this program.